Oh, we're on. Welcome. Today is February 24th, 2021, Curry County Board of Commissioners Workshop. To my far left, oh, do we have Commissioner Pass calling in? Is he on? Thank you. To my far left, Director Brad Rickert. We have Commissioner Christopher Pash on the telephone, myself, Court Boyce. We have Commissioner John Herzog to my immediate right, Council Huddle to his right, and Staff Jesuit. We have one person in the audience. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Folks, I'm going to give a real quick COVID report here. Oh, thank you. I need the mouse. I know my arms aren't as long as yours.
Bradley might be able to.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So we got a little bit of not horrible news, but bad news. We did have 36 new cases last week, and that is from February 16th to February 22nd. 27 are in Central County, 4 in North County, and the remainder in South County. This brings our total cases to 409 since we had our first case in April of 2020, and there's an active 44 cases. So we are being moved, as you can see on the screen here, from low risk to moderate. Douglas County is going from high to extreme, and I want to read something from their commissioners that I think is very appropriate for Curry County as well. The good news is 15 counties improved their risk level, went down, 18 no change, and then the 3 red here, Douglas, Curry, and Harney counties, went to 1 higher level. So Douglas County, this will take just a moment, but I want the citizens to hear why I think this is appropriate to read this right now. The Douglas County Board of Commissioners are very concerned about a recent surge in COVID cases and dismayed to learn that our case counts in the last 2 weeks have prompted the state of Oregon to move Douglas County from the state's mandated high COVID risk level to the state's mandated extreme COVID risk level, thus imposing stricter guidelines on our residents and businesses. We do painfully recognize the impact of the state moving us to the mandated extreme COVID risk level will be felt the most by Douglas County's small local businesses, especially our restaurants, bars, and gyms, rather than by where the most recent rash of cases have been reported, i.e. our long-term care facilities, churches, schools, and by residents who have chosen to host large events. This scenario continues to illustrate the issue we have with the state and their one-size-fits-all approach to their COVID restriction metrics and programs. Now, as our county prepares to move to the state's mandated extreme risk level, beginning on Friday, February 26th, by the way, Douglas County has about 2,300 cases as I speak. As your commissioners always have and will continue to do, we stand with businesses, we stand with, represent, and support the citizens and businesses operating in Douglas County. We want our residents to be healthy and have access to necessary services. We want to help our businesses succeed, and we want everyone in our county to continue to move forward with social and economic stability. While Douglas County currently has no ability to shield or protect our businesses from state sanctions, penalties, and fines, we are here to help in any way we can. We do want to encourage our local businesses to follow the appropriate precautions to prevent the spread of the virus, as well as protect their businesses, their patrons, and their ability to continue to keep their doors open. One more paragraph. Your commissioners continue to be incredibly frustrated with the lack of local input being allowed at the state level, especially when determining the state's current COVID risk level program, instituted in December 2020. The state's new mandated program undeservedly punishes and brutally affects our local businesses' ability to operate and stay financially stable during this pandemic, especially when the businesses that have suffered the most during the state-mandated risk level restriction periods, our restaurants, our coffee houses, our dance studios, our senior centers, our small retail stores, our bars, and our gyms, are among some of the safest places to go during the pandemic. These businesses are required to follow some of the most stringent COVID safety and health guidelines. For the most part, our businesses have been extremely responsible to our communities and in following the COVID-19 guidance coming from the state. The adoption of the Oregon OSHA COVID-19 standard outbreak data statistics have stated very clearly that COVID-19 is spreading in Oregon and in Douglas County for reasons unrelated to our businesses being open. In fact, cases at restaurants, bars, and gyms accounted for only 1% of our total positive cases in the last 2 weeks. Our local data for COVID cases showed that the current 280 active COVID cases that DPHN, Douglas Public Health Network, is supporting in isolation. There are no COVID outbreaks created in active at any gyms, restaurant, or bars in Douglas County. Of those 280 active cases, we only have 4 positive cases associated with gym, restaurants, or bars in Douglas County. Currently, there are no other employees at any other gyms, restaurants, or bars that have active or positive cases at this time. There's 2 more excellent paragraphs. I'll forego that. They're just fighting to protect their businesses, and I think we can relate to that, and I think the way this was written and the timing, the disappointment they had in going to the extreme level. In fact, I think they're the only one, as much as they have fought hard, the only one of the 36 counties. So back to the agenda. Any questions on any of that? Thank you. Comments, Commissioner? Director Rickert?
None.
Okay. So board amendments or changes to the agenda, please?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Council Huddle?
I saw an email today about doing an executive session at the conclusion of the workshop. And was that to consider legal advice and matters subject to litigation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to then add that as an amendment. The law allows us to adjourn to executive session from any regularly noticed public meeting, which this is. So.
Okay, thank you. So we're adding that. Any other changes to the agenda? Looking for a motion, please.
So moved.
I'll second. Call for the question.
Commissioner Pash.
Aye.
Vice Chair Herzog.
Yes.
Chair Boyce.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, board. I'm sorry. Commissioner Pash, Commissioner Herzog, I was going to suggest that we move public comments to number 3. We have one person in the audience I think would like to offer comment. Could we allow that? I don't even think we need a motion. That would slightly change the agenda, but I meant to offer that as an agenda change myself. Is that okay?
I have no, unless he wants to hear what we have to say about consumption tax first, or.
Okay, so you want to go at the end? There might.
After you're done talking about it, yes, I'd like to go that.
Okay, great, thank you. So how we got here today, we're going to do our best to keep this meeting a little bit short. We originally had the roadmaster planning on a 2-hour anticipated discussion on some things he wanted to bring before the board, and he postponed, no problem, until the 3rd of March. But by then we'd already had a couple, 3 other items on the agenda for this workshop, and so we wanted to take advantage of this time. So we appreciate the public's indulgence there, and we're also going to have a workshop, correct me if I'm wrong, on the afternoon of the 3rd. Would be 2 o'clock, Director Rickert?
2 o'clock, yes.
Great, thank you. So we're going to the first one here on the consumption tax. I guess it's no surprise. We've heard someone say not too long ago, former director of operations, that the board has done everything imaginable, words to that effect, to come up with additional revenue for Curry County. And other than increasing fees to our citizens, which in a general sense I have been supportive of, and I felt strongly justified, there's been no other ideas come before the board. I think the two previous boards that I served on, the 2017 and 18, and then the second one, the 2018-19 boards, made it pretty clear they're not in favor of additional property taxes, and I certainly remain strong on that position. But we have public health to finance, we have law enforcement to finance, we have basic county services, we have mandated services, and we were notified on the 4th, and I think we were somewhat, at least I was, somewhat anticipating that we would be about $1 million down. So we've always known that this day might be coming. I've also spoke out absolutely consistently in the 4 years of what I've felt has been some very poor spending decisions. I remain convinced that that has been a tremendous source of frustration and concern and waste. And so on the consumption tax, you know, I brought it up no less than 5 times. And the reason is I think it has a tremendous potential for Curry County. What I've been promoting the last year in particular, and I brought it up on the BOC office reorganization proposal back in early September, and the reason I'm convinced that this is a possible wise consideration for the voters of Curry County is because it offers a considerable amount of money, and it helps focus some support for our mandated services, and if I may, this originally came from Commissioners Bill Waddle and Dave Itzen back in 2015, and they got a lot of help from the Oregon State Legislative Revenue Office, and then I worked with the same person who unfortunately now is retired. His name is Paul Warner, and he was very supportive, very helpful in saying, yeah, Curry County has a potential advantage that a lot of other counties do not have. So, for example, if you see here, this is just one of many different potential options, and that's a 2% would raise right around $3 million. Half of it would come from our shoppers over the border from Delaware County, who now are officially paying right at 10%, as the voters of Delaware County just approved a 1.5% increase, and we're paying 8.5% through the state of Oregon on sales taxes. So, you know, that's a very large part of our economy, especially in the South County area, from the people who come over and shop at Fred Meyer, Weimart. They buy fuel in Curry County, South County, and so that is one basis. The other commissioners used to refer to that as Tourism A. And then Tourism B is our visitors that come and would pay the 2%. And they, as a destination, that has a lot of merit, I feel, in especially if you look at the 15-15 plan. Again, this is all just one possible option. What I'm looking for today is the board to basically say, yeah, we need to dive in to see if there is something that we can outline and complete and put before the voters, and would it actually keep property taxes down and at a level? And of course, then we have to build the trust, which the county, in a sense, has not had a lot of trust from the last 4 years, the Board of Commissioners, in would they spend it wisely? And that's going to be a tremendous sell with the amount of spending that's gone on this last 4 years. And I'm sorry, but I have to keep beating that drum because it is so pervasive, and I've been against it all. And it's been a tremendous source of disappointment and concern. So anyway, the reason I moved public health to the top is because we have so many addictions issues, we have social determinants, we have people that are homeless, and the state of Oregon isn't going to necessarily be able to rescue us a lot, and we can't just ignore these people. I'm not saying that we want to attract people here, but we have the people and the capacity in this county, in our communities, to prioritize what we can do with our funds and then spend incredibly wisely and serve the citizens and build communities here that are the safest you'll find anywhere in the country. That would be my goal, and I think that's probably the goal of this board. So, you know, the public health is an issue. Obviously, repay road fund reserves. You know, you could go back 10 years. I don't know exactly. We would want to take this back to the Legislative Revenue Office, the new people there. I'd love to go in the Capitol and just say, hey, help us refine this. Help us find the you know, the valleys that are not appropriate or even you know, counterproductive, and that would be the next stage before we could get a final plan that we would be comfortable as a board recommending that the voters take serious consideration to. So the road fund reserves, that's always going to be a big one, and I think also likewise an appropriate responsibility. Public safety, you know, I think all of us share the same goal. We want the best law enforcement anywhere in the western United States, and that takes funding. It also takes wise spending, but you know, you could put that at the top of the list. If you had 15% of $3 million, it's pretty easy to do the math there. That's close to $400,000 that we could use for visitor promotion and also advertise in the media in Del Norte County. Here's what you can save. You can pay 10% in California, or you can pay 2% in Oregon on the sales tax. We can save you 8%. Keep coming across the border. You are welcome. We encourage you to come and spend here. And then the visitor destination. You know, we have some excellent tourism programs here that we run in conjunction with our own county visitor promotion efforts with the state of Oregon. Travel Oregon is incredibly well recognized as one of the most professional organizations representing that effort throughout the country. So $400,000 is a lot of money to spend towards visitor promotion, but there's some wise people out there that would have some good input on how to outline that and how to break down those percentages. You're going to need 15% for the administration, and then or you could do 7% for Curry to go to the general fund, 8% for the businesses to collect. The state of Oregon, through their sales tax system, could help us set that up for the businesses so it's easy. It's on computer. And you know, the benefit to them would be a reasonable percentage for going to that difficulty in collecting that money. We can never go wrong with economic development and housing. Those are so intertwined in our county, as most people are quite aware. You know, we're losing our developers. We're losing some of our builders with age, and we need to promote the Curry housing, the expansion that way at a reasonable, acceptable pace that we all would be comfortable with. And then, you know, you can do 10%. Most of our communities have water infrastructure needs. Maybe somebody else in a group or committee would say that's not one of the top priorities. Maybe they would say visitor and shopper promotion marketing is not one of the top priorities. This is only my initial viewpoint for consideration. It's then the next question becomes, what are the exemptions? What are we going to do to the people that have very little funds? And I've offered some information here. If you exempted non-labeled foods, so you know, the analogy I use, if somebody that's of our lower, even families, moderate income people, they're buying bananas not labeled as opposed to potato chips, that is exempted. For our first-time homeowners, the first 200,000, I think the real estate people would accept that. I can't speak for them, obviously, but I think they would believe that first 200,000 would be a good way to go. in that way, if you have first-time home buyers, they're set. They don't have to pay that 2% on the first 200,000. Maybe that should be 100,000. Maybe it should be 300,000. That would be up to this board to put together a plan and work very closely together. So, you know, that's basically it. That's a pretty quick scenario and summarization, and you know, it's something I wish we'd have taken a look at a long time ago, for the reason that had the voters passed this, we would have had several $1 million at our disposal. Of course, maybe it wouldn't have passed if we don't build that trust back and really control costs and streamline our spending. So yeah, this is about the 5th or 6th time overall in 4 years or more that I've brought it together, brought it before the board and in a public setting. And I haven't yet had anyone tell me why it wouldn't be a good reason, or why, at least in the sense of why it would be a bad reason. It's not an effort to somehow go after the tourist, but it's so common throughout parts of the United States and are successful. And, you know, I've definitely heard, oh, you're going to just hurt the poor folks. Well, no. Set up a plan that maybe you want to exempt everything at a certain income level. There's just dozens of different ways that this could be structured. So I will conclude with this. You know, I think Washington County has a 7%. Idaho, I might be drawing a blank there. I don't think they have a sales tax. So you look at Jackson County, Josephine County, somebody coming across the border, they don't have this option. We do have our Dillon County shoppers, and they do save a lot of money. And they schedule their visits to Gold Beach, or excuse me, to South County, sometimes Gold Beach. I think it would be a boost for our restaurants, our small businesses. Again, I'm very concerned about funding for public health. I'm very concerned about long-term funding for public safety. What I'm asking the board again to do is just take a look at really getting some wise community people involved, and let's see if this has a future. I'd hope we could get it on the May ballot. That would only give us about 3 weeks, so that's not going to happen. And I'm very sorry, because we will have lost another 6 to 8 months if, in fact, we determine it's in the citizens' best interest to get it on the November ballot. So, questions? Commissioner Pash, I'll go to you first.
Well, I think, as I've said previously, it's something that if it were crafted properly, I could support. You know, some of the language that I read on in the packet. You know, this is stuff we've talked about before. I was hopeful to see more of a breakdown of, you know, I know you've spoken about this several times, Chair Boyce. I was hopeful to see something a little bit more in detail of, you know, how you would craft, or how would you like the county to look at, you know, who's and hows to do the tax, you know, the exemptions and those kind of things in more detail, so that I could get a better idea of, you know, your further thoughts on this. Again, I've said to the board before that in some ways I would support this. In no way would I ever support a property tax increase, because, of course, the county doesn't get any of that anyway. It's all distributed to the districts, which I don't know as the districts need much more funding. So I have an issue with that. But I would, if I could see a little bit more detail in this and look into it some more, I would find some support at some level of this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Herzog?
Yes. I'm just looking at, you know, whenever you say tax in Curry County, but this has piqued my interest. You know, and none of this can happen unless the voters vote for it. So if we came up with a good plan, like even as Chris mentioned, and in a good breakdown, it goes before the citizens. So, and they will let us know strongly how they feel. And it's just, you know, when you say taxes in Curry County, that's, I guess taxes is a four-letter word. But this is interesting to me. You know, I've heard a little bit about it, and then I've seen more today, and I know we have to do something to garner some funds, and so this could be a way.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Paschal, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted one further comment on this is, you know, I've done some traveling in my lifetime, and I'm sure a lot of the people in Curry County have traveled to different places, and I want to say Curry County is the only place I've ever been to that I've traveled to before I bought property there, and even now that you don't see lines of different little taxes on your bills for things. I'm interested to see when I check out of here, because I'm in a hotel down here in Los Angeles County. I can't imagine the amount of little taxes that they're going to put on the rooms and all those kind of things. So it's not, I mean, people are used to paying these things, and anyone that does any visitor travel that's going to come to Curry County, I don't think it's going to be a huge shock to them to see something. Again, I think it's more important for us, if we even are going to look at getting something like this put through on a ballot. As I've said before, with anything you're going to put on a ballot, your citizens have to be well informed as to the intention of that tax or whatever we're going to ask on a ballot. You know, I think a lot of citizens voted for a bill on this past election that actually allowed drugs. And because the bill was so enamored with confusing language, a lot of people voted yes on it that thought they were doing the right thing when they really weren't. So I think the education to the public, if we were to proceed with something like this, would be imperative. And again, really placing out well in advance where those dollars are going to be spent and how and who is going to be affected and be taxed would be imperative. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yep. Well, thank you. You know, I want to just respond to your first question, or you're looking for additional detail on exemptions. Part of the reason I haven't spent more time on this because I've been turned down to even have a review so many times. So I'm hoping that, you know, the next time I bring this to the board, it will be a combined, unified effort to at least do the work, which is free, by the way, with the Legislative Revenue Office. You know, it'll take some courage because the commissioners that really put a ton of effort into this 4 or 5 years ago, they didn't get reelected. So I started talking about this well into my first term. I didn't care if I was reelected because I have been so convinced that this deserves a very serious look. I couldn't agree more that precisely how this needs to be spent, should it be implemented or passed by the voters. I just need help. I want the board to take the lead. I'd like to have one of the other commissioners take the lead on this and say, yeah, I can't support this, or I can, and here's where I see that just use administration related is 15% is too high, or businesses collecting, or just any combination that I mean, I will support it publicly, and I think I have an obligation to do that because there has been no other revenue sources, ideas, other than fees that has come before this board. So this is an option we have. I think it's safe to say that it's essentially no other option, or no other county has as an option. And if we do our homework and do a professional push for the right plan that we are comfortable going before the voters, I think we got a real chance here. And then the secondary part of that is obviously how do we spend it and how do we gain that trust back from the people? Anything else? Director Rickert?
Yeah, I will say, here you have written that says approximately 55% would come from destination visitors and California shoppers combined. And as Commissioner Pash stated, anyone traveling here is used to these extra taxes. 2% on whatever they buy here, really it is still below normal for them. But as far as the citizens and the workforce in Curry County who already receive low wages and have a higher cost of living, the 2%, even their cost of living increases that they receive from their businesses probably just barely cover the increase in taxes. And so that's, I guess, a little bit of my concern with this as I look at the information here, is that still 45% of Curry residents will bear an additional 2% tax when, like I said, wages are already low and cost of living is already high.
Well, a consumption tax basically is predicated on what you consume. And so the exemptions are a critical part of any consumption tax plan. The 55% is a figure that was based on Curry County figures back in, I think, 2014-15, that the LRO did in Salem. And so I think it's fairly close. It's a little bit general, but that's where further research and study would need to determine what would it be for 2022. And everybody demands services. Everybody pays on this, but you only pay after exemptions based on what you consume. I think the property taxpayers might take a second serious look at this. Public comment, please.
Morning, I'm David Barnes. I don't really know where to start on this. Once again, if you're going to buy a house, you're going to build a house, you first pick out the piece of land, then you have plans drawn up, then you get your permits, then you hire people to come in and do the work, you hire someone to come in and build the house for you, then you furnish the house. And after you're done picking out your furnishings, the last thing you do is go out and buy curtains and drapes for the house. This is the curtains and drapes. There's a lot of hard work that you get that has to be done before you get to spend the money. And that work isn't being done. Commissioner Boyce, you brought this up. This was part of your Curry recovery plan that you brought up when you first ran for office 4 years ago. And this is the only work that's come out so far. I was part of a committee last year. You brought this up again and asked somebody else to take the lead on this because you just didn't have the time to do it. And Commissioner Gold stepped up and she took the lead. She put together a panel. It was myself, a couple other people, and Commissioner Gold, and we met. And the first thing we did was throw this away because you can't spend money that you don't have. So the first thing we did was throw this out, and then we started working on it. And we started getting into the nuts and bolts of it and coming up with you're going to need to come up with what your exceptions are. You said earlier just now that you haven't heard one good reason yet why this shouldn't happen. You do the math. Somebody up there has a calculator. You're predicting between $2.5 and $3.5 million, rounded off to $3 million. If you take 45% of that being paid by Curry County residents, that's almost $1.5 million. It's going to come out of the pockets of people in Curry County who go out and consume things. There's 20,000 people living in Curry County. You do the math on that. I'm not sure where the zero goes, but it's $1,000 a person. They're going to be paying a property in consumption tax over the year. That's an awful lot of money for people who are already suffering at the bottom of the economic spectrum. You also mentioned bringing this to the voters. 2 years ago, in May of 2019, I guess it was, that Board of Commissioners put this out as an emergency measure and put it on a ballot as a special question emergency measure. Cost this county a couple $1,000s to put it on there. The voters voted 5-1 against this. 4,810 to 940 voted against having a consumption tax. The voters have already spoken. They've told you no. I don't understand why this is coming back up again. You're not going to change the mind of 4,000 voters to get them to approve of this. There's very, like you keep saying, there's very little trust in this government, and you're just plain old not going to change the minds of people to get them to agree to this without coming up with a seriously detailed plan of exactly what you're going to exempt, exactly who is going to pay for this, how much money it's going to cost everybody. You're at the highest level here and asking for somebody else to please come and take this ball and run with it and come up with a plan. The first thing we did when we sat down as a committee was we named this the boys' tax. Okay, this is your tax court. If you want something done on this, it's really up to you to sit down and do the legwork on it and do the hard work and come up with all these things, not pass it off to somebody else. If you want this tax, then you're the one who needs to do all this work and come up with all these ideas and put this down. Create the marketing plan that you're going to promote it to the public with. Tell the public how much it's going to cost them, and that work isn't being done. All we have is how you're going to spend it at the end. You got a long way to go before you're spending any money. And right now, to bring this up saying that we're going to have $1 million shortfall in this coming budget, this should have been done 4 years ago, and like you said, we wouldn't have. But it didn't get done. Nothing has
Why didn't it get done, sir?
It didn't get done because you haven't driven it anywhere. This has been your idea. You're the one who brought this up.
I couldn't even get a united board, couldn't even get one other vote to move it forward in the long process that we have referenced here at this meeting today, and you just likewise acknowledged. Number two, this plan was not until 2019. I had a similar plan that I adopted and amended slightly from the 2014-15 Board of Commissioners. And also, when it went to the voters last time, this plan wasn't referenced at all. It was just a simple 2-paragraph question. Of course, everybody voted against it. We're not in disagreement here that we have a long way to go, sir. And as far as all the work that Commissioner Golden, you did on that plan, I've never even been notified that there was work done on that. So, sorry, I'm surprised at that. Maybe you can provide that to this board. I think it'd be a good start. And I appreciate your work on that committee, by the way. Thank you.
If you had asked back then, the Commissioner Gold put together a commission. You sat here and asked her to do it. She told you that she had done it, and you didn't ask her.
No, she didn't tell me that. She never even referenced it again at any public time. Find a spot in the video where she said, we've been working on
I'm not going to stand here and I'm not going to argue over semantics.
You just said she reported back. I'm saying,
you're trying to divert this from what I'm talking about, which is the fact that this is your idea and you've done nothing to move it forward other than keep bringing it back up over and over and over.
You can't move it forward, Mr. Barnes, without one other commissioner coming on board, and I have failed every time. And I believe it's cost us millions of dollars. If we'd have gone with a plan, it's already been said many times, why would I keep spending time when I can't get assistance? It sounds today like there is some interest in moving this forward. If it's a 12-step plan, we might be at step 3, okay? You heard me say we need to go to the Legislative Revenue Office at some point. What more do you want to do that we're not doing? I've got to have support, or this is my last time to bring it up, I can assure you.
You build support by having a plan that you present to people. You don't just throw ideas out there like flinging stuff against the wall and seeing what will stick. You have to put in the work and develop a plan, and that's what you sell to the people. People aren't buying the idea. People voted down the idea.
There's no idea to buy it, sir. There's no idea to buy it. We haven't even got there. And
exactly, because you haven't done anything to get us there, sir. This is your idea. It's on you to come up with the plan.
Could you provide the board with the information that you worked on with the Committee of 4 under Commissioner Gold's support? Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other comment? Any other questions? Coordinator Madison.
Summer Madison, Economic Development. I just have a couple of suggestions. If we're going to look at doing something like this, that we examine existing county programs statewide that work, that may bring the voters some reassurance in what already works instead of reinventing that process. My other thought is to include the cities in this and make it genuinely countywide. Our cities have needs as well. I know that the city of Gold Beach decided to postpone the fuel fee because it was not something we felt the voters would pass comfortably given the circumstances with the pandemic. However, the other conversation that we've had that really resonated was putting this fee or this tax on those that don't reside within county limits. And so that would be the visitors and the tourists. They're already coming with the expectation of spending money while they're here. And certainly 2 cents on the gallon fuel tax is not going to keep them from being here. They don't directly pay into the services that are provided here and the resources that they utilize. And so maybe pulling some revenues from those people would alleviate the pressure on the taxpayers that reside here, and the voters might actually have more incentive to pass that. If you look at the fuel tax that was overwhelmingly approved in the city of Brookings, they did great things with that funding, and they saw the immediate benefit. That is something I think that we would want to keep in mind as well. If we're going to develop a plan, maybe look at more specifics on the deliverables and what the cities need. Our roads in Gold Beach need a lot of help as well. And I know that Port Orford could use funding as far as business support services go. So every city's going to kind of have a different need, and what the county needs really is ultimately what the cities need. And I think it would be a good faith effort to include the cities in this conversation, and it would probably bring your voters some peace in mind that we're all working together as well. Typically when people ask how do we tax or put that fee on just visitors and tourists, that's typically done by zip code. So if you've ever gone to a different city and they ask for your billing zip code and they punch it in, that tells them whether or not you're going to pay the 2 cents on the gallon fee or not. And it's that simple. Let me see if I have any other notes.
Question? You're ready.
Yep, that's what I have. Go ahead. Questions?
Isn't the Brookings City fuel tax 3%? Do you remember?
I'm not sure offhand what that is. I know that the city, we were talking in the city that there would be a summertime percentage, and then there would be a winter time.
Oh, yeah.
And so so that way it's not in the winter. I mean, mostly it's going to be our citizens that are paying that, right? And so bringing that down to be conscientious. But if we were to look overall at just similar to TLT, look at what we've been able to do with that, and our locals are not paying for that. So if we look to do something similar to where our visitors and tourists are picking up the cost for that, and to repair the roads that they utilize as well, and to be cognizant of the needs of each city and the county as a whole, I really think we would have a greater opportunity to hold some town halls and discuss and maybe work with those people that are retired in the community that have done this before, just in different states or cities. They have a lot to bring to the table. I definitely encourage the conversation and hope that we do engage the cities in that as well.
Are you aware, I think you, can't remember for sure it was you or not, but I think you mentioned, or maybe it's, I had it on my desk at some point in the past, the state actually has a program that they come in and they implement to help all the businesses coordinate, and, it's a computer system, a software program. Are you aware of that?
In regards to TLT?
Well, and in any system like that.
Well, I think, I know that they have a program for TLT, and we actually just...
Maybe that's what it was, excuse me.
We just received the costs associated with the state running that. We have yet to get the agreement so that we can look at the particulars on that. And it sounds really great, but do we really want to give that level of control and ownership of that program to the state? And where does that leave us as far as the disconnect in the relationships with the businesses? You know, if we don't have eyes on what's coming in, what's going out, and we see fluxes, what's going on, what do you need? How can we support you? That might just, you know, I don't know that that's something that you will want to support or not. But I'm confident that there are other programs out there that we could learn about through other counties that have done the same.
I think the state program was no, it was TLT, I'm sorry. But that's not a controlling thing, that's just an assistance, supportive deal, correct?
Well, what they do is they have, the TLT is directly submitted to the state, and then the state's, you know, trickles that down to the county. So overall, I don't know what the specifics are yet. They haven't sent that to us. I think Miranda's got it. I think we slated for the 17th of March is when we expect to see that come up. But we don't know the specifics of that. We don't know how hands-off it will be for us and what kind of impacts that will have on our small businesses ultimately.
No extra charge.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a commissioner who wants to take the lead on this. Do I have a volunteer? What are you laughing at?
Well, Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
I think you've got so much time invested in this, I would like to see you follow through it if you could. I mean, this is something that you've, over the years, found an interest in, and I'd like to see you pursue it. As Mr. Barnes said, you know, you've come up with some ideas on this, and I'd like to see a plan drawn out. That's kind of what I was hoping to see today, and you know, you explained you didn't have that, but I would certainly like to see a plan drawn out and how you would get there.
Well, I'm asking the board to do that, an individual, the board, to bring it back, because I'm on some critical boards, and you know, my time, I'm here every day almost, and that's what I promised I would do. And so to take this on and then run the risk of more even potential dissension, like I just heard on public comment, you know, I don't need to keep putting myself out there. This is a good concept for this county, in my view, but it needs mutual leadership, and so that means somebody needs to take the bull by the horns. And you know, that commissioner may at some point go, you know, I've really researched this. I don't think it is good for the county, and that's going to have some tremendous influence on me if that's what I hear, or a committee that's put together. So I've got a big file that you're welcome to. And of course, the other issue that I really communicated to the board in somewhat of a rational recommendation was in 2019, when the legislature was in full session again, just like they are now. We don't know what, with the amount of money that this state is down, once the state comes up with a sales tax, if it does, we're out. And our money that's collected from our visitors and our citizens will not come to Curry County. So that in itself should be an incentive. I miscalculated on that in 2017 and 2019, but I think it's coming. And so this is a chance for Curry County to lead. It's going to take a collective effort from the commissioners. And that plan, we've said it here already 15 times today. I've said it multiple times in the last 4 years. It has to be something that we are confident has a good chance of the voters approving. So there you have it. No, I'm not going to take the lead anymore. I will help, and I will be involved, and I will provide. I'll go to Salem if I'm the one that should go, not suggesting that, and spend a lot of time in the Legislative Revenue Office. And two, just involving the other commissioners that spent a lot of time on this a few years ago. Great resources there. And they were basically just kicked to the curb the first 2 years I was here in particular. And I think that was very unfortunate, because they're still, Waddle, Roads, they're still sold out for this county, and will help any way they can. Thank you. So unless I have a volunteer.
Not volunteering for that, but I did like what Summer said about
the cities?
Well, the cities and the make this for the visitors that come into our county. Like Dave said, Mr. Barnes said, a tax in Curry County is going to be really tough. But if it just affected the folks that come across the border and those visiting, that's something that, if we have a really good, plan and something to throw out there, that would be something that could really get legs. Mr. Huddle.
Commissioner?
Go ahead, Council Huddle. You'll be right next.
Well, I'll wait for Commissioner Pash.
Commissioner Pash?
Well, I was just going to say, I think all of our committees, as you stated a minute ago, you're on important committees. I think all of the committees that we're all on are important. Again, I have concerns with, having our citizens pay the burden of this. As, again, I travel a lot and I see all the taxes that these cities put on me when I travel to them. So there is a way to get this done if it was done properly and it was not a burden to our citizens. But I also want to say, when I was elected, I started a thing where we got the cities back together and had a monthly meeting. And I have reinstituted that again with the city of Brookings already and reached out to Gold Beach and Port Orford. But my first meeting back with the cities is next week with Brookings, Mr. Alcorn and Janelle Howard. So we're going to start those monthly meetings again with the county to have that liaison kind of thing that I can bring back to the county. Excuse me one second. So I can bring back to the county, concerns and information from their that I will bring to them next week when I'm at that meeting and see if we get any traction from that. But as far as I'm concerned right now, I've got enough on my plate, and I was kind of hopeful to see Chair Boyce continue with this.
Council Huddle?
Thank you. So we've heard from Mr. Barnes and we've heard from Commissioner Boyce and the commissioners. I think I was at the meeting where Sue Gold said she would take the lead on this project and form the committee talking about. And then Mr. Barnes says they did a workup, and Commissioner Boyce says he hadn't seen it. I'm assuming John Herzog hasn't seen it. Commissioner Pash, have you seen the workup that the group that Commissioner Gold put together performed?
Excuse me, workup was not the word I used.
What word did, Mr. Barnes says he didn't use the word workup. What word did you use, Mr. Barnes? What materials did you guys develop in this committee that you formed?
I'm not going to sit here and let you badger me.
I'm asking you a question. You came and spoke about something.
I said that we did some work and we had some product from the work that we did. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and let you attack me like this,
I will rephrase.
Nobody's being attacked. Recess, please.
Bottom line, can I continue without Mr. Barnes's whatever it was?
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Maybe I deserved it, maybe I didn't, but I heard Mr. Barnes say there was some work. I heard you say you've never seen it. Commissioner Pash, have you ever seen the work, whatever it was that this Sue Gold committee did on this topic?
As I stated a moment ago, I don't recall it, no.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we didn't hear that, sorry.
Bottom line, and we had Summer Madison, our Economic Development Director, come and present some information. Commissioner Boyce is asking for a commissioner to take the lead on this. I think that happened once already. And the rules on matters that go to the voters is staff cannot work on them after they've been put on a ballot. But prior to that time, staff can work on them. If a commissioner doesn't have time to work on this, and a committee, and honestly, I'm not a fan of committees, but I think having one person take the lead and synthesize the information and give it back to the board and say, here are your options. After, again, we've had some committee work on it, and we've heard Mr. Barnes say he would give those materials to Commissioner Boyce and perhaps the board. I think it makes sense for the board to direct staff to come up with a proposal and use the materials that Gold's committee provided. The staff person that makes the most sense, in my opinion, is the Economic Development Department. economic development. So if the board wants to consider this further, and the board doesn't have time to do it, that's what you have staff for. And so, and there's already been a committee worked on this, there's materials, so you can just have staff synthesize something and bring it back to you for consideration. It's really not as complicated or as much of a taffy pull as you're making it out to be.
Where would which staff would you be? I think it's a great recommendation. Which staff do you have in mind?
You had the staff right here have the ideas and seem to be the appropriate department, economic development. My goodness, I mean,
okay. I thought that's where you're going, but good.
Well, isn't that what would come to your mind?
Absolutely, and I think with the file that I have in the past, I want to give that credit to the previous commissioners that put a lot of heart and soul into it. I think that would be very beneficial. And so if that's the consensus of the board, I will remain available because I do have interest, and as I've stated more than enough, I think this has at least the appropriate merit to review.
Aren't you, Commissioner Boyce, the liaison to the Economic Development?
That's not fair.
Are you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the only other thing, I just want to object to Mr. Barnes claiming I'm badgering him. The way he treated the chair during this dissertation or this discussion, I felt like I was treating Mr. Barnes the way he treated you, Commissioner Boyce. So
thank you very much.
I don't need him to sit here and complain about the way I'm asking him questions.
It said first thing we did was throw it out, but then we called it the Boyce Plan. That's where it's hard for public officials and community leaders to simply go, got to make tough choices, got to stick my neck out there. And I was surprised that any work was done, pleasantly surprised maybe, and so I will be anxious to get that. But the Boyce Plan, call it whatever you want, but serving the citizens and coming up with funds is something we cannot overlook any longer. We've done it for 4 years now, at least the 4 years I've been here. It's inexcusable. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm wondering how economic development with the current staff there is going to be able to take on a project like this and give it its full attention. From the last meeting I had with economic development, they were already overburdened with things that they were working on, so I don't know how they're going to be able to find the time. Are you suggesting we hire another person for economic development?
No, I think that's a reasonable concern, Commissioner Pass. But if we have till basically late August to get it in prep for the November 2021 general election, I think that's going to give us some time to coordinate with our economic development department and see what their needs are, see what their interest is, and just get a good direction to go. We're going to be able to collect some more information, I think that's worthy of concern. So yes.
I think she. Oh,
go ahead, Commissioner.
I think she had great ideas. So I'm in favor of that.
Yeah. Plus, one of the things they're working on is the TLT. But if we get an IGA with the state to do the TLT, then boom, all kinds of time opens up for economic
There you
development.
go. Good job.
But again, it's not that complicated. They can just come to you and say, we have these 6 projects, and they're your priorities, not necessarily theirs. And you just tell them,
this is what we want you to work on.
That's a basic focus of our government. You pick the goals, and they do what you say. I mean, none of this is that hard.
Thank you. Well, let's go. It's 10 o'clock. Do we need to take a quick break?
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Meet everybody back here in exactly 10 minutes, 10:10. Thank you. On the phone, our next item on the agenda is the Commissioner Boyce looking for an anti-violence and freedom to assemble resolution from the county. So I will carry forward here my ideas on that. We okay, Staff Jesuit?
Yeah, it's
Thank you. I brought this up, oh goodness, 6 weeks ago. and brought it before the board. I just have a... Thanks, Eric. So I just have a really strong conviction that Curry County could take the lead here. What I communicated in the previous... communicated in the previous meeting was the Bill of Rights, and the First Amendment there is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free or exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government, it's pretty fine print here, so redress of grievances. So about 10 days ago, we had one of our political offices vandalized, windows broke in downtown Brookings. Quite a disappointment. You know, people don't want me to reference Portland, but it's almost 8 nonstop months of violence and destruction and looting and fires. Our beautiful, famed Portland, Oregon city that we're all proud of, or we're proud of. And I'm asking the board to consider a resolution just to say, we don't want violence here. Keep your hands below your waist. Don't break windows. Don't intimidate people. Back in May, I think it was May, forgive me, it was the first part of June, we had one business in Brookings, because they wouldn't put up a specific political sign, was really intimidated and complained, and that's just, that's the wrong way to bring people together in our county, in our state, in our country. And you see what's going on nationwide, and I believe it's time for the citizens of Curry County to just say, yeah, we want to respect your right to assemble, we want to respect your right to have your opinion, but a simple, maybe even shorter version of an anti-violence resolution, I think is really a good idea and important. So I brought it for the workshop today. I want the board to consider making that statement and let the people know that this is what we want to teach our children, that, that there's really no downside to this, to be aware, and for public awareness and public encouragement to be on guard. So I'm going to go with Commissioner Herzog first, please, if you have any comments.
No, I'm against anti-violence. I'm against anti-violence? That's not the way to say that, right? I'm against violence.
You're against violence.
Against violence.
Now that makes sense,
that
knowing
makes
you.
Sense. Okay. So, yeah, and the Bill of Rights is, so, yeah, I'd like to see, you know, I don't know about an amendment or a
resolution.
Resolution. That's anything supporting, you know, anti-violence is good with me. So.
Commissioner Pash?
I don't know if the document saying we support anti-violence is going to really do a lot for the county. I think our actions speak much louder than words. The decisions that our board has made since I've been in to further help our law enforcement, to work with state and federal officials is where we have our voice. I think, you know, if you wanted to have a document that says we are, you know, against violence, that's one thing. But I think where our work is our actions, what we do. As the book I read says, we will know a man by his fruit, and the fruit we produce is in our actions to protect the citizens of this county. That's all I have.
So one additional comment here. I just saw on the news that there's a group of sheriffs nationwide. It's called Protect America Now. In fact, if anybody's interested, you could go to their website. It's protectamericanow.com. And they're basically wanting to just stop lawlessness. They want to recruit more deputies and officers, and they just want to guard the citizens and promote peace. The reason I bring that up is because stating publicly how this board feels and what we think our priorities are, I think is one additional good way to show that support. So in your comments, Commissioner Pash, I couldn't tell if you were in favor of a resolution or not.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not in favor. I'm just saying, you know, our citizens, they look to us as elected officials to protect them. That's our first sworn duty. And I think the declaration we make is by our actions in supporting law enforcement, you know, local police, county sheriff, state police, and whatever that entails, state, federal, you know, however that entails to support those things, as we have consistently done.
Commissioner Herzog.
I would like to just put our names at the bottom of the Bill of Rights and say this is what we believe and support, and maybe along with that, the 10 Commandments. We got 10 Bill of Rights. I'm in favor of the 10 Commandments, so I would put my name to either one of these documents.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Herzog. It's funny you say that. One of my kids said, Dad, did you really coach us with the 10 Commandments when we were kids? And I said, just last night. And so just this morning, I'm looking at it and saying, I had them fairly well memorized, but I was a little embarrassed because my kids were saying, yeah, we need to visit that again. You know, I don't know if legally we can do the 10 Commandments is that what you're looking up now, Counsel?
No, I'm not. I'm looking at something else, but you get into some gray area
Yeah.
when you try to mix religion and state, and I think if you wanted to put them in your own words, like you're talking about with the resolution and the Bill of Rights, et cetera, I think you'll be on, you know, better ground. So,
But
that's all.
And I understand that. I think you're accurate in saying that. Commissioner Herzog, to bring up the 10 Commandments, though, that's a breath of fresh air. I greatly appreciate that. So I think. Go ahead, Commissioner
Number
Pash.
one.
That's where the confusion lies, because it was written to keep the states from affecting the church, not the church from the states. But we won't go there.
That's okay. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff on that with governments erecting the 10 Commandments, and you know, they've gone so far to recreate stone slabs and put them in courthouses and things like that. But yeah, I think you're able to talk about it all you want. But really, I think Commissioner Boyce is maybe for that. And, you know, Commissioner Pash, you're right. There's a lot of support that, you know, our laws are based on them. They're the source of our laws, so, and the Constitution. So really, again, I don't know. I've said too much already.
No, you didn't. That was much appreciated and quite timely. So I'm for having the staff move forward with a resolution. Do I have full board consensus on that? Something that we can bring back for approval, maybe the 3rd. Commissioner Pash?
I'd be all right with that.
Okay, that's a tacit endorsement. Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Herzog, you're okay.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Next, we have the agenda sequence. You know, I brought this also up, and if the board doesn't have interest, I won't bring it up again. But, you know, our agenda, general meeting agenda, needs an update, in my opinion, and so that's the reason I brought this. Oop, I'm going the wrong way. Forgive me, board. So we did have some input on, I think it was January 6th. It doesn't matter, but I believe that's the date. And there's two spots on here. First, the commissioners can comment or give updates or give reports. The last year or two, the board let me make some early comments that I think were most important to the first part of our meetings, and so I'd like to give the commissioners a chance just to make quick comments there before they go into the updates at the end of the meeting. The other thing I mentioned was public comments should be on agenda items, and I have a reason that I believe that. But I also covered with the public, and no surprise, I've always been very supportive of public participation and comments, concerns. So that's at the end of the meeting. So it gives it would give the public two different options of addressing the board. Last meeting, Commissioner Herzog mentioned, do we need or should we consider a place for old business? And then staff reports. You know, I think this is a 2021 update. And I think it's timely also and appropriate. And the reason I put the opportunity for declaration of potential conflicts of interest, I mean, that only takes 20 or 30 seconds if one of the board members does not have or does have or has concerns. That should be done at the beginning of the meeting. That met with a little bit of opposition back in January when I broached this subject, and I don't understand why. That's most boards operate with that declaration or disclaimer right up early. And so I think that's a pretty good summary of why I think this is time to, at least through this workshop, amend this, add, subtract, leave it as is, but keep it for discussion. Yeah, open it for discussion. So let's go to Commissioner Pash first.
Well, I think I'm very comfortable with the agenda sheet that we already have. Again, conflicts, you're going to note that conflict when you get to it, that you might need to step away from that. Commissioner comments in the beginning, I don't know what the difference between Commissioner comments and Commissioner updates would be. So for me, I'm very in favor of what we currently have. And I'm comfortable with that. That's all I have.
Commissioner Herzog?
Oh. So everybody knows how much I don't like to talk, so Court, I don't need two times to have a comment. I like commissioner comments at the end. You know what I mean? Just so commissioner comments on number 6, 3 minutes each. That's not mandatory.
No, it's strictly optional.
Yeah. Presentations, what is number 5? What is presentations?
That's usually at the beginning. Yeah, presentations is like we had
Okay, like honoring the
watershed
vets?
councils or veterans. Director Ricker?
I was just going to point that out. You know, last week we had a couple of presentations. I don't remember what they're on, but just a presentation is a presentation, I guess. So that there's no real spot for it to go anywhere else. So that's why that's there.
And we've been doing better, I think, the last few months, even the last year, at being aware of who is in the audience and who's here to present so that we can get them, especially if it's our employees, so we can get them back to work and back to their other responsibilities. You know, one thing I brought up in January was the financial report, and I think I said monthly, or maybe I said bi-monthly, and Commissioner Herzog, you said, how about monthly? You know, I think that's a real big one. Commissioner Pash, can I ask how you feel about that?
Well, I think we do an annual, biannual, and quarterly budget reports already. So, and again, once OpenGov is fully up and operational, which is hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll even be trained to go in and look at the budget, and it will be on the website. That'll be all the information, right down to the penny, that we can provide to anyone anyway. So it'll be at their fingertips.
So we don't need a specific report, financial report, you know, routinely, bi-monthly, monthly, you know, bi-weekly. What for the people that don't do the web or any of that's your position? We don't need that financial report.
I think every manager, department head will have their budget on their computer and the county's budget on their computer. and the general budget will be online. So any employee of the county, even citizens of the county, will be able to go on and look at the budget, where and how our money is spent. Pretty much everyone will be able to do that.
Okay, I appreciate your optimism on OpenGov, certainly. However,
It's not optimism, it's the facts.
okay, yeah, okay. I wish you the best, and I hope you're right on that. If we'd have had the financial reports that I requested clear back in November and then twice in December, we would have known that we had $1 million shortfall coming. So that's why I'm just bird dogging this a little bit. You know, we might have been able to have a little more heads up on where we were financially. And so unless one of the other commissioners agrees with me on that, then that's going to die for lack of a second anyway. Director Rickert?
One more thought on that.
Director Rickert, and then I'll come back to you.
So just my thoughts on the financial report is, you know, typically in a private business, you'll have financial meetings, budget meetings, managers meetings, whatever you want to call them, monthly, where you look at the finances of the company.
Form 7.
Yeah, and that's really because you have revenues that come in from a product or service you make. Here in government, we don't have that regular type of revenue coming in all the time. Additionally, any of the substantial expenditures that we have that are going out are already brought before the board and approved or not approved by the board as those expenditures come up. So to me, I don't really see the need for it. We do have quarterly reporting. Every quarter, the budget committee meets, and we go over the budget and where we're at on that. So because, I mean, we don't operate like a private business does. We don't have those constant revenues that are coming in that are the lifeline of the business. Our revenues come in with property taxes and grants and those kind of things, and even the grants are all brought before the board for the acceptance of the board before they're signed. So I guess in my mind, I don't see what a financial report is really going to present on, because all that information has already been given at some point in the course of business meetings.
Thank you. Well, you know, there's a lot of citizens think we should be operating it more like a business, and then when we have these surprises, then boom, next meeting, communicate, express. And I guess I'm, from the perspective of 4 years of the tremendous amount of money going out, that is, should have been totally disqualified. And so that's why I've thought this is so important, but unless I have support, I want to move on to something else. So go ahead.
One more comment. I did, as I was looking over this proposed agenda, I looked at some of the other counties, how they do their agendas. I printed a few of neighboring counties' agendas out, if you guys want to take a look at them. And so since we're on the financial report piece of it, I didn't find any other counties that are reporting financials monthly. Of the three that I looked at Coos, Jackson, and Josephine.
I'm going to interrupt you there because the other counties are better managed when it comes to finances and haven't gone through 5 different county accountants in 4 years. So go ahead, Mr. Rickert.
Some of the other things I noticed on them is you know, some of the things that we've talked about here. There aren't 2 places for commissioner comments. You know, I'm still a little confused on the opportunity for declaration of potential conflicts of interest. That seems to me like as if, like one of the other meetings, Commissioner Herzog had a conflict with an agenda item dealing with Coos Creek Electric because he sits on the board. At that point, he mentioned I need to abstain from the vote because of it. So it seems to me like that's something that would be more logical to have stated at the discussion item that presents that conflict of interest.
It's also pretty rare.
Yes, it is.
So to have it on every agenda when it rarely occurs, I think handling conflicts of interest on a case-by-case basis, item by item, is pretty much the norm.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Let's see. Again, yeah, commissioner comments on there twice. I mean, it's on. Does it really need to be on there twice? And that's more for you guys to decide. Old business. That was another one I was confused on. What is the intent? What is the intent there? And then staff updates. Are we having staff come in and report on their department every month? How's that looking again? I didn't see anything in some of the other examples that I pulled off from other counties that did that, and if that's the intent, we're really extending our meetings here, and I don't know. Those are just some of my comments, some of what I thought of as I looked through this. And then the last item, number 15, citizens' concerns. I guess it's okay to have another place for the citizens to speak up. It is kind of late in the meeting, and a lot of times citizens are gone by that time. However, we do have the public comment section up at the beginning, so I don't know. Those are some of my thoughts.
Commissioner Herzog? Or no, Commissioner Pash, did you have something else?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner Herzog?
So my concerns are some of the same ones as Brad. I think old business, I think the concern there was just reminding us of, because we get some pretty long agendas and we can get off task, and so Brad, you being the youngest one, you're going to have to remember to keep these old dogs reminded of where we're headed. And I think if a citizen stays, and then they should have a chance if they want to speak. But I mean that even today there's nobody in here. So at the end of the meeting, if there's somebody here, we're definitely gonna. So I think that's something that should stay, just in case somebody would like to speak at the end of the meeting. I think one time of commissioner comments is plenty for me. Financial report, I understand what you're saying, Brad, and the fact that, on the other board I serve on, we do, but it is, you're looking at, on budget with a product. And so here it's different. And I know all three of us can ask you into our office anytime and say, where are we at? So, and then that, eventually will be on the website. And if the public would like, we can, if they don't have ability to be online, we can get them that report, mail it to them, in a hard copy. I'm just old school. Less is more in my, and so I don't have the old, our regular agenda, so to put side by side with this one. So the red is new, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I think we could get rid of a couple of those red things.
Commissioner Herzog, how come your name is in parens next to old business?
Because he's
if we go to the financial report, I wanted it, even if it was just a few minutes, and I'm going to remain firm on that. I mean, obviously, the risk is I may not prevail there, but he said, well, why don't we do it monthly? So that would be maybe the third Wednesday of every month. We have Director of finance just say, yeah, here's where we are, no surprises, done. But I'm really concerned because we have not, the last 3 or 4 months in particular, followed through with that. So that's why this was a big priority item for me. And then, Commissioner Herzog brought up old business. I think that's a dandy one because we do have some big agendas, and then we commit to doing or having certain issues completed, and they fall through the cracks. No one's fault. I have got the last couple of meetings, so afterwards ask Staff Jesuit, hey, what are we overlooking here? What do we need to deal with? And make sure we don't forget. And frankly, he's been Johnny on the spot there. Jesuit on the spot, right? So I don't think we need to spend any more time on this. I'm all for the old business thing. Just as a reminder to the public, that's who we serve. That's who we're responsible to keep well in the loop. The agenda amendment should be in black. Opportunity for declaration of potential conflicts of interest. That's just a big one with me because this board has been so divided the last 4 years. This is a chance to, if you pass over it, you pass over it. I'm not too dogmatic on that one. Commissioner comments is just if you want to bring something up early on that you don't want to wait to the very end of the meeting. And citizen concerns. That's it. So I don't think we're really going anywhere on this. I think I heard Commissioner Pash say leave it exactly as is. I'm very disappointed on the financial report, at least not once a month, just in a general sense. So that's all I have, unless somebody else wants to take part of this. Commissioner Herzog?
So Brad, what would it, so the second meeting of the month is towards the end of the month. What would that entail to have a financial report at that meeting?
Well, yeah, we could do a financial report. I'm just not sure what to report on, where we don't have a revenue stream, a monthly revenue stream. Our expenses are approved by the board. Any major expense over $10,000 is approved by the board before that time. That's where I'm coming from. I don't know. I don't really understand what I could add to a monthly financial report.
So what are we doing with when it comes to COVID, when it comes to unanticipated revenues or higher, lower? I mean, that's what we pay you for. That's my opinion, and I'm very concerned, not to be too blunt, but we're going down the same track we've basically done the last couple of years, and we've lost thousands and thousands of dollars. No fault of yours, sir. I'm ready to move on.
Well, so what I would like to see is on budget, where we're at presently, year to date, compared to budget. If that would, is that
all that will be available daily in OpenGov, as Commissioner Pash said, once that piece of it's up and running.
Yeah, we just spent $500,000 to get there, whatever it's going to be.
Not quite that much.
Okay, not quite.
Until then,
I wish you would stop telling the public that we spent $500,000.
What's it going to be? Okay.
Did not.
Do you know what it's going?
Stop telling the public that, please.
Why don't you tell the public what it's going to be for the 3-year period, sir? What's it going to cost us? And we just hire another person for the transition and budget $25,000 we don't have?
The program itself is about $45,000 a year. There has been money spent on implementation and that is normal. And we did have hired an outside CPA to help us with the transition of some of this.
And I oppose that. So, okay, thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
No, I'm done. I think Council Huddle's been waiting.
Well, I heard one thing about there's a general rule on public meetings laws that your agenda has to list the principal subjects that you're going to discuss. That doesn't prevent you from adding items. But if we just had a topic, old business, I think that does not let anybody know that's not a principal subject. It's not an action item. But it sounded like the intention here was to make sure, I thought I heard somebody say, to make sure things don't fall through the cracks. I believe if it, it might be easiest, for instance, if Director Rickert, because he's always doing a director's report, and remember, it's the director's job to carry out the board's, directions and stuff. It might make sense if he just put into his general report, he goes over the agenda from the prior week, he checks to make sure things were done, and he brings that back to his report and just says, hey, if you remember, last meeting you approved this, here's what's going on there. I think that can be, without being a formal item on the agenda, it can be woven into the director's report. I don't know, Brad, if that makes any sense to you or not, and maybe you're already doing a lot of that.
Yeah, it makes sense, and we do a lot of that already. Just making sure that all the orders get signed, that the people are notified about the orders, whether they're staff or the public. But where you're coming from is, and to simplify maybe what you're saying is, in the director's report, I can simply bring up this was an outstanding item on the previous agenda, and nothing's been done with it.
I have a specific example, and it's the lead bill letter, I think. There was a letter in the packet last agenda, and I felt like the board approved sending it in its current form, and then there was a question it would go to certain people, there was a question as to, did that get sent? Did a different letter get prepared? That kind of thing. So I don't want to call it old business, but that would just be an example of, the tracking of the activities of the direction of the board from the prior meeting.
And that makes sense.
So, but we'll pass over that, just like we hardly ever refer to that, but it is on the agenda, and it is an option if we need it. So, old business, that may be not so much from a government agenda perspective. I thought it was generally a good idea, and it would be a reminder, and you just characterized it and identified it. So, I can let this go. I'm a little surprised. I'm sorry.
No, I want to, after you're done, but...
No, I'm just a little surprised that we spent this much time on it. I've emphasized what I think the priority should be when it comes to financial, and, even if the director says, hey, no surprises for the last 30 days.
Well, we're still doing quarterly financials, I thought. And then also, when you mentioned excuse me, you had like the department reports, or we're going to have
staff?
Staff updates. I thought the prior director was doing quarterly department reports to the board on a quarterly basis. I don't know if that's something that's still going on, but so that's already there in the director's report, the quarterly updates on staffs. And then the only other thing with the old business, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but what I've seen is that the commissioners in their comments near the end of the meeting will say, hey, what happened to, this thing we did?
Okay.
So, I think the commissioner comments, I don't think we need to break it out into so many subcategories of things. I think we already have enough groups of topics that cover many, many, many of these things. What it almost looks like you've done here, Commissioner Boyce. And then, Commissioner to the front, I believe you've been able to be recognized multiple times when you just ask. And citizen comments at the end, people say, I'd like to speak here and there. And so I really think, Commissioner Boyce, you've taken what actually happens and you're like, this happens and this happens, and you've kind of broken it out into a lot of component parts when all the things you're talking about, all of these things, to me, sort of happen already.
Okay.
And we're just saying it in a different way. And it may, and this is the funny part, this may be kind of like what a lawyer does, and kind of, I don't want to say overcomplicates things, but just kind of, we're making rules upon rules when we can have some more, when our simple system allows for all these things to happen without so much regimentation. I'm just trying to...
Except for the line of duty death.
Yeah.
I mean, this is basically what's been here for a long time. So if the board and even County Council and Director Rickert believe that this is as good for 2014 as it is for 2021, I took a shot at it, and I think it's all valid and justified, but that's okay. I'm cool, and I think you make a good point that we vary from the specific agenda items and the numbers, when necessary, and so yeah, fair enough.
Okay. But again, all these are things that are happening, so I think you're spot on, but is it making what we do in our informal way more?
We only meet two.
Is it being less flexible? Are we, anyway, that's all.
Fair enough. We only meet twice a week on a general meeting as a rule, and so having it be a little complicated or complex so that we can best serve the citizens, that's my intent here. But it doesn't sound like I have all agreement. Okay. So should we let this go, or what do you think, Commissioner Herzog? Was there anything in particular you would like to add, or just keep it as is?
You know, another thought just came to me. So the new chairman of the board for the year, chair of the board, this is the agenda this is what he would like. So maybe we just, if we vote the chair in, the chair will come up with his agenda that he likes, and that's what we'll go with. I know that would have, you know, whoever is the chair that year, they get to pick how they like to run their meeting. That's another thought. I don't know if that's a can of worms but...
No, it's probably a little sign of respect, but how about if I modify this with what I learned today? I'll send it to Director Rickard. He can send to you, and if it's something you're good with, fine. If not, we can just let it go.
Send it to Chris and I, and...
Okay. I'll work on it one more time. Okay. Any other discussion on this?
Time's a charm.
Thank you for the patience of the board. Council Huddle, anything else?
No, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Director Rickard?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to recess at 10. Whoop. Do we have something else on the agenda? I'm sorry.
Yeah, executive session.
You had talked about...
I'm going to say we're going to recess and go into executive session at 10:48. Okay. And we don't need a break,
We
right?
don't need a break.
Okay.
I've just got to go grab the disc and...
Okay, so we'll take 5 minutes here.
Okay.
We'll come back into executive session.
10:55.
Thank you all. Yeah, 10:55. Welcome back. We just left executive session. We are asking staff to proceed as directed. If anybody has no objections, we will close the regular session today. Thank you all.
Thank you.